I used to think betrayal had a sound, a gasp, a slammed door, a scream. But that night, when I opened the bedroom door and saw them together, the only sound was her laugh. Not the laugh of a girl caught doing something wrong, but of someone who wanted me to see it. That's when I knew. This wasn't an affair. It was a message. And I wasn't the only one being destroyed. The rain began long before she turned into the driveway. It came in steady, whispering sheets, slicking the dark road and washing the porch light into a trembling halo. Mara sat in her car for a long minute, the engine ticking softly as it cooled. Her mascara had smudged slightly at the edges, and her hair, the kind of glossy auburn that cost too much to maintain, was pinned tight for the hour. She rubbed her temples. The charity gala had ended early after one of the sponsors fainted during the auction, and the hosts, mortified, shut everything down for most women. It would have been a blessing to come home early, but not Mara. She didn't like surprises. She liked her house silent, predictable, wrapped in order, like her life used to be. She slipped her heels off in the foyer, the sound of the rain muffling her steps. The house was dark except for the soft amber light seeping from under the bedroom door upstairs. Daniel, she thought, working late again, probably scrolling through spreadsheets on his laptop with that furrowed look that had replaced his smile over the last few years. Her daughter, Layla, was staying the night at a friend's house, Chloe's house. She remembered. The name slid through her mind and disappeared as quickly as it came. Chloe, bright, charming, to self-assured for 19. Mara had liked her once, even envied her youth in a quiet, aching way. She climbed the stairs, each step creaking faintly under her bare feet. Halfway up, she paused. The faint sound of laughter floated through the hall. A woman's laughter, soft, breathy, intimate. Mara's heart stuttered. The first instinct was denial. It had to be the television. Maybe Daniel was watching a movie, a comedy. But the laugh came again, closer now, and she could hear the low, rhythmic murmur of a man's voice underneath it. Daniel's voice. Her hand hovered over the banister. The rain outside seemed to grow louder, pressing its rhythm against the windows. The hallway light flickered once as if the house itself had shivered. She moved toward the bedroom. The laughter stopped. Silence, only the muffled hum of the rain. Her fingers trembled as they touched the doorknob dot for a split second. She considered turning around, going back downstairs, pretending she'd never heard, pretending that the quiet, familiar lie of her marriage could stay intact for one more night. But curiosity, or maybe intuition, had its claws in her now. The door wasn't locked. It opened with the softest click dot at first. All she saw was light, warm, golden, spilling from the bedside lamp. Then shapes, movement, skin, the unmistakable geometry of betrayal. Daniel was there, bare-chested, sheets tangled around his waist, and beside him, Chloe. Mara's mind refused to process it. Her body froze, rooted in disbelief. Chloe's hair, a dark tangle of curls, fell over Daniel's shoulder. Her bare back glowed in the lamplight. The air carried the scent of perfume, floral, sweet, expensive, not hers. Daniel jerked upright, his face a mask of shock. Mara, but before he could say more, Chloe turned her head, slowly, deliberately. Her eyes found Mara's across the room, and she smiled. It wasn't the nervous, ashamed smile of someone caught doing something wrong. It was deliberate, calm, knowing, a smile that didn't belong in that moment, that shouldn't have existed at all. Mara's throat constricted. No sound came out. Her body felt like glass about to crack. The world shrank to the space between Chloe's eyes and that terrible, quiet curve of her mouth. Daniel scrambled, fumbling for words, for decency. Mara, please. It's not what it looks like. But Chloe interrupted him, her voice soft and almost amused. You were supposed to be gone longer. The words cut through the room like a whisper of smoke, thin, cruel, calculated. Mara blinked. The rain outside sounded like applause. Daniel turned to Chloe, confused. What the hell does that mean? Chloe said nothing. She merely tilted her head, eyes still locked on Mara's, that faint smile never faltering. Her confidence was terrifying, too composed, too intentional for a 19-year-old caught in the act. Mara took one step back. The floor felt unsteady, her pulse a dull roar in her ears. She wanted to scream, to throw something, to demand explanations that would never soothe what she'd seen. But her voice, the one that used to fill boardrooms, dinner parties, and her daughter's childhood bedtime stories, had vanished. She could only look down at Daniel, pale and sweating, stammering out nonsense. At Chloe, still smiling, a small, satisfied curve of lips that felt like the end of something sacred. Without realizing it, Mara's hand reached for the doorframe, steadying herself. Her wedding ring glinted faintly in the lamplight. The scene felt off, not just the betrayal, but the tone of it. There was no chaos, no frantic scramble to cover themselves, no apologies, no shame, only quiet, poised, deliberate quiet, like a performance. And Chloe, the way she looked at her, as if Mara wasn't the intruder here, but the intended audience. The realization chilled her blood. Mara turned and walked out, slowly, mechanically, down the hall, past the framed photos of family vacations and birthdays, memories that now felt counterfeit. In every picture, Daniel's arm was around her. Lila's smile was wide, and somewhere, in a handful of them, Chloe appeared to, grinning beside her daughter, the perfect image of youthful innocence. Mara's stomach twisted. She descended the stairs, the house silent except for the ticking of the kitchen clock and the steady percussion of rain. Her breathing came shallow. The taste of copper coated her tongue. Rage or shock, she couldn't tell. In the living room, she stopped by the window and stared at her reflection. Her face looked older, harder, almost unfamiliar. Behind her reflection, the faint light from the bedroom still glowed upstairs. She wanted to go back, to confront, to demand, but something in her gut told her it wouldn't change anything. Whatever had happened up there had already been planned. It hadn't been an accident. It hadn't been heat of the moment passion. That smile, it was too confident, to rehearse. As if Chloe had wanted her to walk in. Mara sank onto the couch. The silence pressed heavy against her chest. She stared at the wedding photo on the mantel, the two of them so young, so stupidly hopeful, smiling in a way that seemed impossible now. Her phone buzzed beside her. A message from Lila. Hey Mom, spending the night at Chloe's again. Love you. Mara's vision blurred. Her fingers trembled. She looked at the message until the letters lost shape. Upstairs, she heard a faint thud. Daniel closing the door, maybe, or Chloe leaving. She didn't care. The world above her might as well have belonged to strangers. But deep down, beneath the heartbreak, another feeling stirred, smaller, colder, more dangerous. A question. Why that smile? Because it hadn't been taunting in the ordinary way, not the cruelty of youth or arrogance. It was something else. A signal, almost, a promise that what Mara had seen was only the beginning. Her instincts, honed from years of reading people, whispered that Chloe wasn't just a girl making a reckless mistake. She was playing a game. And Mara had just been moved into position. Hours passed. The rain softened to a drizzle. Daniel eventually came downstairs, his expression drawn and ashamed. Mara, he began, voice breaking. Please, listen. She didn't look at him. I saw enough. It wasn't. She came onto me. I made a mistake. It was one time. I stopped. Her tone was calm, detached, frighteningly measured. You don't have to explain. Not tonight. He sank into the armchair opposite her, rubbing his face with both hands. I'll end it. I'll fix this. Mara stared at the rain streaking the window. Do you even know what she meant? Daniel looked up. What? She said, you were supposed to be gone longer. He blinked, confused. I don't know. I didn't even hear her say that. But Mara had. The words were etched into her skull. They weren't words of panic. They were words of timing, of control. Daniel's guilt felt shallow now, almost irrelevant, because for the first time, Mara wasn't thinking about him. She was thinking about her, about Chloe, the girl who smiled when she should have cried, the girl her daughter trusted, the girl who had somehow found her way into their family and into her marriage with surgical precision. Mara rose from the couch and walked to the kitchen. Her reflection followed her in the dark window, fragmented by rain. She poured herself a glass of water, though her hands were trembling too much to drink. The smile replayed in her mind again and again. The stillness of it, the purpose behind it. She whispered, to no one but herself, this isn't over. Outside, the rain began again, harder this time, almost furious, as if the sky itself understood that something irreversible had just begun. By the time she finally went upstairs, Daniel was asleep, or pretending to be. The bed smelled faintly of Chloe's perfume. Mara didn't lie down. She stood at the foot of the bed and looked at them both, her husband's face turned away, the sheets disheveled, the air heavy with deceit. She noticed something on the nightstand. Chloe's phone case, left behind, pink, with a small heart sticker on the back. Her pulse quickened. She picked it up. The screen lit instantly, no passcode. A message notification glowed at the top, unknown number, phase 1, complete. Mara's breath caught. Her hand tightened around the phone. That smile, that asterisk. The days that followed were almost eerily ordinary. That, Mara thought, was the most unbearable part. The morning after she'd walked in on Daniel and Chloe, the world simply continued. The sky was blue. The coffee brewed. The paper arrived at the door as it always did. There were no sirens or storms or omens, just the usual quiet suburbia. Pretending nothing had happened, Daniel acted like a man desperate to rewind time. He followed her around the kitchen, his voice gentle, apologetic, rehearsed. Mara, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't want to lose us. He looked smaller, somehow deflated. She almost pitied him. Almost. She didn't reply much. She didn't have to. Her silence was its own language, colder and more eloquent than words. Lela returned home that afternoon, radiant as always, full of teenage energy. Mom, guess what? Chloe and I are going to apply for that summer photography program together, she'd said, dropping her backpack on the floor and hugging Mara before running upstairs. Mara's arms remained suspended in the air for a moment after the hug ended. Chloe and I. The words hit her like ice water. For an instant she considered blurting everything out, telling Lela the truth, and ripping the mask away. But she couldn't. Lila's trust was still untouched, her world still intact, and Mara knew from experience how fast innocence could vanish. So she smiled instead. That sounds wonderful, sweetheart, she said. Her voice didn't even crack. Years of practice had made her an expert at pretending. That night, when she finally allowed herself to cry, it wasn't the image of Daniel that haunted her, it was that smile. Chloe's calm, knowing smile, the one that felt like a mark being left on her soul. It followed her into dreams. She'd wake in the middle of the night to the hum of rain or the click of the fridge, and swear she could still hear the faint echo of that laugh. A few days later, it began. The first email arrived on a Tuesday morning. The subject line read, "Do you remember this?" She almost deleted it, thinking it was spam, but curiosity tugged at her. When she opened it, there was only a single attachment, a photograph. It took her breath away. It was her 20 years younger, in a crisp white uniform, standing in front of a large estate. Her smile was polite, distant, the same smile she'd worn the summer she worked as a live-in nanny. The job that had ended in tragedy, the job she'd spent decades trying to erase. The image shouldn't have existed. She had destroyed every copy years ago. Her hand trembled as she scrolled. No message, no sender's signature, just that image, frozen in time. She closed her laptop, but the photo stayed burned in her mind. That evening, as Daniel poured himself a drink and tried to start another apology, she interrupted him. "Did you touch my computer?" He blinked. "No, why?" She watched him. His confusion seemed genuine, but she wasn't sure anymore what genuine looked like. "Nothing," she said finally. "Forget it." Over the next week, more emails came, each from a different anonymous address, each with another photo snapshots from that same summer 20 years ago. One of them showed her by the pool, holding a little girl. Another, sitting on a porch step, talking to a man whose face was conveniently cropped out of frame. And another, the last one blurred, taken at night, her expression frightened, turning toward the camera as if she just realized she was being watched. Every time she saw a new image, a cold dread coiled tighter in her chest. Someone wasn't just reminding her of the past, they were reconstructing it. And the timing was deliberate. Chloe. The thought was unavoidable. It made perfect sense. The smile, the message, the sudden intrusion of a past that no one should know about. Chloe had to be behind it. But why would she? What did she want? Mara tried to hold the family together, at least on the surface. She cooked dinner she barely touched. She attended Lila's school events. She smiled for photographs and waved at neighbors. But inside, she was unraveling thread by thread. Lila, oblivious, kept talking about Chloe as if nothing had changed. "Chloe says I have a natural eye for portraits," she said one night, showing Mara the pictures they'd taken together. The photos were lovely, two girls laughing in golden light, soft smiles and shadows. But when Mara looked closer, she noticed something unsettling. In almost every image, Chloe's gaze wasn't at the camera. It was directed past it, toward something unseen. Toward her. It was irrational, she knew, but the feeling stuck. That weekend, Chloe came over. It was early evening. Lila had invited her for dinner, completely unaware of the tension simmering beneath the surface. Mara's chest tightened the moment she saw her at the door. Perfect posture, polite smile. The very picture of innocence. "Hi, Mrs. Weller," Chloe said brightly. Her tone was sweet, respectful. Mara forced her lips into a matching curve. "Chloe," she replied, her voice careful. "So nice to see you." Daniel stood behind Mara, frozen. Chloe's gaze flickered toward him for a fraction of a second, barely a glance, but it was enough. Mara noticed everything: the slight raise of Chloe's eyebrow, the faint twitch at the corner of her mouth. A reminder, a private signal. Dinner was torture. Lila chattered nonstop about school, friends, photography. Daniel overcompensated, cheerful to the point of absurdity. And Chloe played her role perfectly, laughing at Lila's jokes, complimenting the food, charming them all like the model guest. Only once, when Lila leaned down to feed the dog scraps under the table, did Chloe lift her eyes and meet Mara's for a heartbeat. The mask slipped. The smile she gave was smaller than before, quieter, but its meaning was unmistakable. "I'm still here, and you can't say a thing." Mara felt the air leave her lungs. She excused herself to the kitchen, clutching the counter for balance. Her hand shook so badly she nearly dropped a glass from the dining room. She could hear laughter again, Lila's, Daniel's, Chloe's. It was a sound that should have been comforting, but now made her skin crawl. Later that night, after Chloe left and Lila had gone upstairs, Daniel found Mara in the dark living room. He sat down beside her cautiously, like approaching a wounded animal. "I know you don't believe me," he said softly, "but it was a mistake. She knew what she was doing. I swear, she manipulated everything." Mara turned her head, studying him in the dim light. "She's 19, Daniel. What exactly did she manipulate?" "Your conscience," he winced. "I deserve that. But you don't understand. There was something about her she wasn't normal. The way she talked, the way she looked at me, like she knew things about us, about you, that caught Mara's attention." "About me?" He hesitated. "She said she knew you from somewhere, that you used to work for her family." Mara's blood ran cold. "I told her that couldn't be true." He continued quickly. "But she said it with such certainty that I didn't know what to think." Mara looked away, her heart thudding. So it was true. Chloe did know about her past. The ghosts were real, and they were coming closer. That night she couldn't sleep. She sat in her study, surrounded by half-read books and silent memories, staring at the pink phone case she'd hidden in the drawer since that night. Chloe's phone. She powered it on again. The screen lit up, that same faint pink glow reflected in her eyes. She scrolled through the messages. Most were empty, deleted, wiped clean. But she found one thread that hadn't been erased completely, a string of numbers and phrases, like steps in a plan. At the top of the list was the same message she'd seen before. Phase 1, complete. She saw it. Mara stared at the words until they blurred. The meaning was undeniable now. Whatever Chloe was doing, it had started long before the night in the bedroom. She scrolled further. A second message appeared, sent from a new contact. Phase to begin soon. Don't lose focus. Her pulse spiked. The message wasn't from Daniel. It wasn't from anyone she recognized, but it meant someone else was involved. She turned the phone off and hit it again. For the first time, she realized how deep the web might go. And yet, amid the fear, another feeling surfaced, something dark, almost empowering. If Chloe thought she could destroy her quietly, she was wrong. Mara had survived worse. She could wait, watch, learn. She looked at the old photographs again, the ones sent to her email, and noticed something she hadn't. Before in the corner of the very first image, behind her smiling younger self, a small figure stood near the house gate. A little girl, maybe 5 years old. Dark curls, serious eyes. Chloe's eyes. The realization struck like lightning. Chloe hadn't just known her from the past, she'd been there. A child in that house. A witness. Suddenly, everything aligned. The timing, the manipulation, the deliberate smile. This wasn't about lust or attraction, it was about punishment. Retribution. For what? She didn't yet know. But Mara understood one thing with searing clarity. She wasn't just being haunted. She was being targeted. And the ghost wearing the mask of her daughter's best friend wasn't done with her yet. That night, as she sat alone in the dark, the rain returned. It tapped against the window softly, almost soothingly. But to Mara, it sounded like footsteps. And in every reflection of the window, the glass frame, the black surface of her phone, she could almost see it again. That smile, still there, still waiting. The air between them had changed. Mara could feel it whenever Chloe was near, an invisible current, faint but electric, like standing too close to storm that hasn't yet broken. It was the Wednesday after the dinner, a week since the first strange email. The family was pretending again, pretending that Daniel's late nights were just work, pretending that Lila's laughter could still fill the house, pretending that Mara was fine. But the cracks were widening. Mara had grown skilled at hiding her exhaustion, foundation to conceal sleepless nights, the right smile to reassure her daughter. But inside, she was unraveling. She needed answers. So when Lila told her that Chloe would be coming by that afternoon to help with the photography project, Mara knew it was time. Enough hiding, enough waiting. She would confront her alone. The visit's doorbell rang at 4. The sound cut through the quiet house like a blade. Mara was already in the kitchen, waiting. The rain had begun again, light, cold drops pattering against the windows. She didn't move immediately. She let the sound linger, steadying her breath. Then she opened the door. Chloe stood there, perfect as always, her curls pulled into a neat bun, a camera slung across her shoulder, her smile polite and practiced. "Hi, Mrs. Weller," she said. "Is Lila home?" Mara stepped aside, her own expression unreadable. "She's at her friend's. Won't be back until late." Chloe hesitated. "Oh, I guess I can come back later then." "Come in," Mara interrupted. The words were calm, but there was an undertone that made Chloe's eyes flicker with curiosity. She stepped inside. The house was quiet, the kind of quiet that waits. Mara motioned toward the living room. "Sit down." Chloe placed her bag on the couch, her posture straight, controlled. For a long moment, neither spoke. Finally, Mara broke the silence. "I know who you are." Chloe tilted her head slightly. "Do you?" Mara crossed her arms. "The photographs, the emails. You've been sending them." Chloe didn't deny it. Her eyes softened, almost sympathetic. "You've been expecting this, haven't you?" The calmness in her voice unsettled Mara more than any confession could have. "I don't know what you want from me," Mara said quietly, "but whatever this is, whatever you think I did is over. You've made your point." Chloe smiled, that same slow, deliberate smile that had haunted Mara since the night of the betrayal. "Oh, Mrs. Weller," she said softly, "it's not over. It's barely begun. The past unfolds." Mara clenched her jaw. "You're playing with people's lives. My daughter's life." Chloe's expression flickered, then settled into something unreadable. "You destroyed lives once," she said simply. "I'm just returning the favor." The words hit like a slap. Mara's breath caught. "What are you talking about?" Chloe rose from the couch, pacing slowly across the room. Her fingers brushed the edge of a framed photo. "Mara and Daniel with Lila as a baby. You used to work for the Harlows," she said. Mara froze. The name was a ghost she hadn't heard in 20 years. "How do you know that?" Chloe turned, her gaze sharp. "Because I was there. You just don't remember me." Mara shook her head, the floor tilting slightly beneath her. "No, you couldn't have been. You were a child. I was 5, Chloe said quietly. "Old enough to remember my father's face. Old enough to remember the night he died." Mara's knees weakened. She sank into the nearest chair, the air draining from her lungs. "Your father, David Harlow," Chloe finished. "The man you were accused of killing." The room seemed to contract, the walls closing in. Mara stared at her, heart pounding. "That's impossible," she whispered. "That case, no one even knew my real name. It was sealed." Chloe nodded. "But my mother kept everything. Every clipping, every report, every photograph. I grew up reading about you, the nanny who ruined our family, who seduced my father and then watched him die." "That's not what happened," Mara said sharply. Chloe's voice remained calm, almost gentle. "Isn't it? Because from where I stand, the pattern looks familiar. A husband, a home, and a woman who doesn't belong finding her way in." Mara rose to her feet, trembling with fury. "You think you know me because of your mother's lies? I didn't kill him. He had a heart condition. I was the one who tried to save him." Chloe's expression flickered just slightly, but enough for Mara to see a crack in the mask. Then it was gone. "My mother said the same thing," Chloe murmured. "That you tried to help. That it was an accident. But she also said you disappeared the next morning before the police arrived." "I left because she told me to," Mara shot back. "She begged me not to stay. She said the press would destroy her. So I left and she blamed me anyway." Silence stretched between them. The rain had grown heavier, drumming against the glass for a long time. Chloe said nothing. She simply studied Mara, as if trying to reconcile the image of the woman before her with the monster she'd been raised to hate. Finally, she whispered, "I've spent my entire life waiting for this moment." The confession of Mara sank back down, exhausted. "So what now? You ruined me. You destroyed my family? You've already done that." Chloe walked closer, her step soft, deliberate. "Not yet. Not fully. Your husband will forgive you. Your daughter still thinks you're perfect. But once the truth comes out, once the world knows who you really are, then you'll finally understand what it feels like to lose everything." Mara looked up, eyes burning. "You think destroying me will bring your father back?" Chloe's lips parted, but no words came. For a flicker of a second, Mara saw something fragile behind her eyes, a child's grief, not a woman's rage. Mara softened. "You were a little girl," she said quietly. "You shouldn't have seen any of it. None of this is your fault." Chloe flinched, as if the gentleness hurt more than the anger. "Don't talk to me like I'm still that child," she hissed. "You don't get to feel sorry for me." "I'm not sorry for you," Mara replied. "I'm sorry for what your mother made you believe." Chloe's composure cracked. She turned away, pacing again. "You think you're innocent," she said bitterly. "But even if you didn't kill him, you destroyed our family. You made her lose everything: our house, her reputation, her sanity. Do you know what it's like to grow up watching someone drown in someone else's shadow?" Mara's voice softened. "Yes, I do." The breaking point rain intensified, a relentless rhythm against the windows. Mara stood, moving closer until they were only a few feet apart. "Chloe," she said carefully, "whatever you think you're doing, it won't heal you. It won't change the past." Chloe met her gaze, her voice trembling for the first time. "It's not about healing. It's about balance. Balance." "You broke something," Chloe whispered, "and I'm just making sure it breaks evenly." Mara swallowed hard. "And what about Lila? She loves you. What happens to her when she finds out why you came into her life?" For a moment, Chloe's mask slipped completely. Pain flashed across her features, raw and fleeting. "I didn't plan to like her," she admitted. "She was supposed to be just a doorway. But she's kind. She's everything my mother wasn't." "Then stop before you hurt her," Mara pleaded. Chloe hesitated. The silence stretched so long it almost became hope. But then she shook her head. "It's too late. Fiesta has already started." Mara froze. "What do you mean?" Chloe glanced toward the window, the reflection of rain streaking her face. "You will see. Everyone will." Then she turned, grabbed her bag, and started toward the door. "The ghost returns." Mara followed her to the threshold, voice shaking. "Chloe, wait please. Tell me who's helping you." Chloe stopped, her back still turned. "You should know," she said quietly. "It's someone who's been in your life longer than I have." Mara's stomach dropped. "What are you talking about?" But Chloe didn't answer. She looked back once more, eyes gleaming in the dim light. "You're good at surviving, Mrs. Weller. Let's see how long you can keep doing it." And then she was gone. Mara stood there for a long time, staring at the empty doorway. The rain had eased, leaving the world washed and silent. Her hands were shaking so violently she had to brace herself against the wall. Everything made sense now: the emails, the photos, the deliberate seduction, the smile. Chloe had spent years building this. A quiet, meticulous vengeance born from a story that had started before Mara had even met Daniel. But one thing didn't fit: the part about her helper. "Someone who's been in your life longer than I have." The words replayed in her head like a pulse. She looked up the staircase toward Daniel's study, where the faint glow of his computer seeped under the door. He'd said he didn't know her, that he didn't recognize her name, that he'd been manipulated. Mara's throat tightened. Could he be the link, or was someone else pulling the strings? She didn't know. All she knew was that the past she'd buried was clawing its way back into the light. And Chloe, beautiful, broken, dangerous Chloe, was the hand that had dug it up. That night, Mara dreamed of the Harlow estate again. The long corridors, the smell of roses and disinfectant. The moment she found David on the floor, clutching his chest, gasping for breath, and a little girl at the top of the stairs, watching through the banister. When she woke, her pillow was damp. She rose, crossed the room, and looked out the window. The garden below glistened in the early light. For a second, she thought she saw a movement near the gate, a figure, small and still, watching. But when she blinked, it was gone. Only the reflection of her own face remained, tired, haunted, and, for the first time, frightened. The morning light was pale, uncertain, the kind of light that doesn't warm anything, only exposes what's been hidden. Mara sat at the kitchen table, surrounded by open folders, photographs, and yellow clippings spread out like the debris of her own history. For the first time in years, she wasn't running from her past. She was staring directly at it. Her fingers hovered over the edges of the documents. The Harlow case file she had secretly requested from the courthouse archives. It had taken weeks of pleading and one quiet bribe to a clerk who remembered the scandal. And now, here it was, the truth, printed and dusted with the smell of age. David Harlow's autopsy. The sealed report. The missing page that had vanished all those years ago. She read it again, though she already knew every line by heart. Cardiac arrest induced by a lethal interaction of prescribed sedatives and alcohol. No evidence of foul play. The handwriting at the bottom. Not hers. Not the doctor's. It was a note scrawled in another hand, one she recognized from old letters. He took too much. I told him not to drink tonight. M.M., of course, was Margaret Harlow, Chloe's mother. Mara closed her eyes, the air leaving her in a single shuddering breath. She hadn't killed him. She never had. But she had lived 20 years as if she did, because Margaret needed someone to blame. And Mara was the easiest ghost to bury a sin beneath. The decision to know had asked where she was going that morning, but she didn't answer. He didn't press. Their marriage had become a polite ceasefire, words passing between them like smoke. He knew she wasn't ready to explain, and she knew he didn't really want to hear. As she left the house, the rain began again. It had become almost ritual, the weather shifting with every revelation. Like the sky couldn't decide whether to mourn or cleanse. Mara drove without music. The streets blurred in soft gray lines, her heartbeat steady but cold. She had memorized Chloe's address weeks ago from one of the invoices she'd intercepted. Now, the GPS wasn't needed. Her hands guided her from memory, the same way a scar knows where it came from. When she arrived, the building loomed in quiet stillness, an old brick apartment near the edge of the city. One of those places where time moves slower, and every shadow seems to remember its shape. She parked, turned off the engine, and sat for a long moment before stepping out. The envelope rested on the passenger seat. The autopsy, the photos, the letters, the proof, her proof. And yet, she didn't feel powerful. She felt hollow. The confrontation Clee answered the door almost immediately, as though she had been expecting her. She wasn't wearing her usual mask. No perfect smile. No controlled elegance. Her hair was undone, her eyes red-rimmed, her sweatshirt oversized and wrinkled. She looked young again, frighteningly young. Mara, she said quietly, "You shouldn't be here. I could say the same about you," Mara replied. "But we passed that point, haven't we?" Chloe stepped aside. "Come in." The apartment was small and dimly lit. A single lamp cast soft light across cluttered tables, notebooks, photos, camera lenses, scattered sketches. On the wall, there were pinned photographs of Mara and her family, some recent, some from years ago. It was a shrine of obsession, but also of confusion. Snapshots of lives Chloe had been trying to piece together into a story that made sense to her. Mara's voice was steady. "You've been watching us for a long time." Chloe didn't answer. Mara laid the envelope on the coffee table between them. "Then you deserve to see this." She opened it, spreading the contents carefully, the documents, the photographs, the handwritten note. Chloe frowned, stepping closer. Her eyes moved across the papers, at first with suspicion, then confusion, then disbelief. She picked up the letter, tracing the handwriting with her fingers. "This is my mother's writing," she whispered. "Yes," Mara said. "The night your father died, she gave him his medication, the wrong dosage. It was an accident, but she panicked. She called me to help, but by the time I got there, it was too late. She told me to leave, said she'd take care of everything. I believed her, until the headlines came out." Mara's voice softened. "She needed someone to carry the blame. I let her make me that person." Chloe's eyes filled slowly, like a tide rising behind glass. "No, that's not true. She wouldn't have." "She did," Mara said quietly, "and she lived with it until she couldn't anymore. That's why she told you those stories, not to protect herself, but to give her guilt somewhere else to live." Chloe turned away, shaking her head. "You're lying." "I wish I were," Mara said. "Do you think I wanted this? To spend 20 years haunted by a death I didn't cause? To build a life while waiting for someone, maybe you, to tear it down?" Silence filled the room, thick as fog. Then Chloe spoke, her voice breaking. "She told me you left him to die. I didn't. She said you seduced him. I didn't. She said you smiled while he stopped. Mara said sharply, then softened again. Please, stop listening to ghosts. The breaking Chloe pressed her palms against her temples, tears spilling silently down her cheeks. All these years, she whispered, I thought I was making her proud. I thought I was giving her peace. Mara looked at her, really looked at her. The vengeful, composed young woman was gone. What stood before her now was a frightened child trapped inside a grown body, clutching her pain like an heirloom. You were just trying to understand her, Mara said gently. You grew up in her shadow, same as I did in her lies. Chloe's body trembled. I heard your daughter. I heard Daniel. Yes, Mara said. And that's something you'll carry. But not because I want you to. Because it's how you'll remember what happens when pain becomes purpose. For the first time, Chloe couldn't meet her eyes. Her breath hitched. I don't even know who I am without the story she gave me. Mara took a step closer, her voice barely above a whisper. Then start by letting it in. The choice for a long time. Neither woman moved. The rain against the window softened, a hush settling over the room. Mara gathered the papers back into the envelope and set it beside Chloe. Keep them. They belong to you now. Chloe stared at it like it was something radioactive. What will you do? Go home, Mara said. Tell my daughter the truth when the time comes. Not the whole truth, just enough. Chloe's eyes lifted, wet and desperate. You're not going to expose me? No, Mara said. You've already been exposed enough. Chloe blinked, confusion cutting through her grief. Why? After everything I did to you, why show me mercy? Mara smiled faintly, but there was no victory in it. Only fatigue. Because you wanted me to feel your pain. But I already have. For 20 years. That broke her. Chloe's knees buckled, and she sank onto the floor, sobbing quietly. The sound wasn't dramatic or loud. It was small, almost fragile, like the sound of something giving way inside. Mara didn't touch her. She just stood there, watching the storm finally leave someone else for once. Then, quietly, she left. The aftermath be the time Mara stepped outside. The rain had stopped. The world felt washed clean, but not renewed. The air still carried the scent of what had been, something raw and metallic, like regret. She drove home in silence. The roads were empty. Her reflection in the windshield looked older, but lighter somehow. A woman who had finally looked her ghost in the eye and refused to run. When she entered the house, it was dark except for the kitchen light. The clock read 11:47 p.m. Daniel was asleep upstairs. Lila's room was closed, soft music pulsing faintly behind it. On the table sat a letter, neat handwriting, folded perfectly. Mara hesitated before opening it. Mrs. Weller, I don't know what I am supposed to be now, but I know what I don't want to be anymore. Tell Lila I'm sorry. Tell her she was the only good thing I didn't mean to find. I'm leaving before I destroy anything else. Don't look for me. Maybe we both deserve silence. Chloe. Mara set the letter down. Her hands were steady. She walked to the window, the moonlight faint against the glass. Her reflection stared back, pale, tired, but strangely peaceful. The guilt that had shadowed her for decades was gone, replaced by something quieter. Not happiness, not relief, just absence. The space grief leaves when it finally moves on. But as she stood there, her gaze drifted to the garden. A shape flickered at the edge of the darkness, small, still, barely there. For a moment, she thought she saw Chloe again, standing by the gate, watching just like before. Mara blinked. The figure was gone. Only the echo of that smile remained, the one she finally understood. It wasn't cruel. It never had been. It was the smile of someone who had mistaken vengeance for love and sorrow for strength. Mara exhaled, touched the window with her fingertips, and whispered to the empty night, "Goodbye."